Stop everything you're doing right now. Yes, because what I'm about to tell you is unlike anything you've ever heard before, and it's directly from God. Can you imagine, in just 7 minutes, looking at your balance and seeing numbers you never thought possible? This isn't a coincidence. It's not luck. It's divine intervention, and it's coming straight to you. But here's the thing. This blessing isn't for everyone, only for those bold enough to claim it. God has chosen you to hear this, but will you accept what He's offering? Right now, financial miracles are happening all around the world, and God is saying, don't let this one pass you by. You've prayed for change, you've hoped for a breakthrough, and guess what? It's finally here. But listen closely, because the window is short, and if you ignore this, you might be turning away from the very blessing you've been waiting for. What if I told you that in the next few moments, your entire financial future could shift, right here, right now? This message isn't just a nice thought or a random idea. It's a divine instruction. And here's the kicker. The blessing is already prepared for you. The only question is, will you open your heart and receive it? God doesn't send opportunities like this every day. This is your moment. But be warned, if you walk away, you might be walking away from financial freedom itself. The clock is ticking, and what happens in the next 7 minutes could be the miracle you've been praying for your whole life. Are you ready to see what God has in store for you? Because the truth is, only those who truly believe will witness this life-changing transformation. So stop scrolling, stop doubting, and get ready, because God's message for your financial breakthrough is about to be revealed. The blessing is in front of you. Will you take it? Opening yourself to receive God's blessings is the first step toward witnessing financial miracles in your life. Many times, we limit ourselves by thinking that blessings are reserved for others, but God has already prepared miracles for all of us. Think of someone who always looks at others receiving blessings and wonders why they haven't experienced the same. What if the only thing holding them back was their lack of belief? By opening their heart and truly trusting, they would realize that the blessings were always there, just waiting to be received. It's like standing in front of a closed door, knowing that everything you need is on the other side. You have the key, your faith, but sometimes, doubts keep you from turning that key. When we fully embrace God's promise of financial miracles, that door opens wide, and we can step into a life filled with abundance. The first action to take is to acknowledge that these blessings are not just possible, they are certain. God's word is clear. He has prepared financial prosperity for those who trust Him. Think about a person who plants seeds without expecting a harvest. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But many of us live this way, praying for blessings but not truly expecting them to come. God's blessings require us to believe wholeheartedly that the miracle is already in motion. Just like a farmer waters his crops daily, we need to water our faith with trust and gratitude, knowing that financial blessings are coming. They might not always arrive in the form we expect, but they always come at the right time. One way to start experiencing these blessings is by actively looking for them in your daily life. Sometimes, we overlook small signs of God's work because we are focused on larger expectations. It's easy to miss the financial miracle in the form of a new opportunity or an unexpected gift when we are too focused on waiting for something bigger. Open your heart to see the many ways God's blessings can manifest. A blessing today could be a connection that leads to financial prosperity tomorrow. Another practical way to prepare yourself for receiving is by practicing gratitude. Start each day by thanking God for the blessings you have already received. It may seem simple, but gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. When you focus on what you already have, you naturally attract more of it. Gratitude is like a magnet that pulls in more financial blessings. Imagine someone who constantly complains about not having enough money. Do they ever seem to attract more? On the other hand, those who express gratitude for what they have often find that more comes their way. In times of doubt, remember that God's timing is perfect. Sometimes, financial blessings come after a period of waiting or even struggle. But that doesn't mean God has forgotten you. The Bible tells us that we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Trust in that promise, even when things seem uncertain. God is working behind the scenes, preparing blessings that will exceed your expectations. Patience is key when waiting for financial miracles, and it's during this time that our faith is strengthened. When you're unsure of what steps to take, remember that God often speaks through people, opportunities, and circumstances. Be attentive to the signs around you. Sometimes, your financial miracle will come through a person who offers you guidance or an opportunity that seems small but grows into something much larger. A single conversation could be the key that unlocks the door to your financial breakthrough. So stay connected to people who share your faith, as they might be the vessels through which God delivers your blessing. Have you ever noticed how the more you give, the more you receive? This is not just a saying, it's a spiritual truth. Giving opens the flow of blessings. When you give with a generous heart, expecting nothing in return, you align yourself with God's principle of abundance. Whether it's your time, resources, or money, giving unlocks financial miracles. It's counterintuitive, but the more you release, the more space you create for God's blessings to fill your life. One real-life example is of a person who, despite their own financial struggles, chose to give to those in need. Over time, they found themselves receiving unexpected financial opportunities and blessings, far greater than they had imagined. This isn't magic, it's God's way of showing us that when we act in faith, He multiplies our resources. Financial miracles often come when we stop holding so tightly to what we have and trust that God will provide for all our needs. Another important aspect of receiving God's blessings is aligning your thoughts and actions with His Word. Think of it this way: if you're praying for a financial miracle but still holding on to thoughts of fear and scarcity, you create a barrier between yourself and God's blessings. Renewing your mind daily through prayer and meditation on God's promises allows you to stay focused on abundance and keeps you in alignment with His will. This mental shift can be the difference between waiting for a blessing and living in it. If you're wondering where to begin, start with small, intentional acts of faith. It could be as simple as giving a little extra to someone in need or taking a financial step you've been afraid to make. These small actions build trust between you and God, showing Him that you are ready to receive His financial miracles. Each step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to the blessings He has already prepared for you. Remember, God's promises are true, and they never fail. God's blessings often come in unexpected ways. It's easy to believe that financial miracles will only come through a raise or a new job, but sometimes they arrive in the form of reduced expenses or a sudden debt cancellation. Trusting in God's guidance is essential, especially when life throws challenges our way. We often find ourselves in moments of confusion, unsure of which path to take. It is during these times that leaning on God's wisdom becomes crucial. Just like a sailor navigating through a storm, we need a strong compass to guide us, and God is that compass. His Word, as described in Psalms and Isaiah, assures us that He is always with us, leading us even when the road ahead seems unclear. In Isaiah 30 verse 21, God says, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" This verse serves as a powerful reminder that even when we feel lost, God is whispering the direction we need to go. It's easy to doubt this guidance when things don't go as planned, but trusting in His divine plan opens the door to financial miracles and blessings. Our job is not to understand every twist and turn, but to trust that God is steering us toward a better outcome. Think about a time when you faced a difficult decision. Maybe it was about your career, finances, or a personal relationship. You might have felt overwhelmed, unsure of which choice to make. But when you prayed and asked for God's guidance, didn't things start to fall into place? Perhaps you received a sudden job offer, or a financial door opened where you least expected it. That's God at work, leading you toward financial prosperity, even when the path didn't seem clear at first. Sometimes, God's guidance comes through the people around us. A friend's advice, a sermon at church, or even a casual conversation with a stranger can be the very answer we've been seeking. The key is to stay open and attentive to these moments, recognizing that God often works through others to deliver His message. When we trust in His plan, we become more receptive to the guidance He sends, no matter the source. Financial blessings often come wrapped in these seemingly ordinary interactions. One of the biggest barriers to trusting in God's guidance is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, and fear of taking risks can paralyze us. But God did not give us a spirit of fear. Instead, He calls us to move forward with confidence, knowing that He is in control. Think of all the times in the Bible where God led His people through uncertainty, like Moses leading the Israelites through the Red Sea. It was only when they trusted God's plan that they saw miraculous results. In the same way, trusting God with your finances, even when things seem tight, can lead to unexpected financial miracles. Trusting God also means letting go of the need to control everything. We often want to manage every detail of our lives, from our career trajectory to our bank accounts, but God asks us to surrender control. This doesn't mean being passive or neglecting responsibility. It means releasing the worry and anxiety that comes from trying to manage it all on our own. When we allow God to guide our steps, financial blessings flow more freely because we're no longer blocking His work with our doubts. Have you ever heard of someone who invested time and resources into something that didn't seem promising at first, only to see it turn into a huge success? That's what trusting in God's guidance looks like in real life. You might not see the full picture now, but God is already orchestrating your victory behind the scenes. Whether it's a small business venture or a new job opportunity, trusting His guidance means stepping out in faith, even when the outcome isn't immediately clear. Financial miracles often come to those who are willing to take that leap of faith. It might feel risky, but remember that God is guiding your every step. In Psalms 23, we are reminded that even though we walk through the darkest valleys, God is with us. This includes our financial valleys. The decisions that seem the scariest often lead to the biggest blessings when we trust that God is leading us through. It's in these moments of uncertainty that our faith grows the most, and so do the financial blessings. Another way to trust in God's guidance is by staying rooted in His Word. The Bible is filled with promises of prosperity and blessings for those who follow God's path. Meditating on these scriptures daily can help you align your heart and mind with His will. It's like tuning into the right frequency. When your thoughts and actions are in sync with God's Word, you'll start to notice more financial opportunities and blessings come your way. It's not a coincidence. It's God's way of rewarding your trust in Him. In addition to prayer and scripture, practical action is key. Trusting in God's guidance doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It means moving forward with the confidence that He is directing your steps. If you feel led to pursue a new career path, take that first step. If you feel called to invest or start a new project, trust that God will provide the resources. Financial miracles often require both faith and action. God opens the door, but it's up to you to walk through it. God's guidance is not always immediate. Sometimes, we have to wait for clarity. It can be frustrating, especially when we're seeking financial breakthrough, but God's timing is always perfect. While you wait, continue to trust that He is working all things for your good. Whether it takes days, weeks, or months, God's blessings will arrive right on time. Patience in His process often leads to greater financial rewards than we could have imagined. Victory comes through faith, not by our own efforts alone, but by trusting in God's plan even when we don't understand it. Life is filled with challenges, financial struggles, personal setbacks, moments of doubt. But these are all opportunities for us to strengthen our faith. The Bible teaches us that victory is already ours when we believe in God's promises. It's not about avoiding difficulties but facing them with the confidence that God is working behind the scenes for our success, even when we can't see it. Think of the story of David and Goliath. David didn't defeat the giant because of his physical strength. He won because of his unwavering faith in God. He trusted that God had a plan for victory, even when it seemed impossible. Similarly, when we face financial difficulties, our victory isn't in our ability to control every detail, but in trusting that God's financial miracles are already in motion. It's faith that turns the tide in our favor. We often think that winning in life is about having everything figured out. But the truth is, God asks us to walk by faith, not by sight. When financial troubles come, it's natural to want to fix everything on our own. However, victory comes when we let go of the need to control every outcome and trust that God is guiding us toward financial blessings. Just like a blind person trusts their guide, we must trust that God is leading us through the unknown, toward a victory we can't yet see. Imagine someone who has faced countless failures but continues to push forward, not because they see the finish line, but because they believe in God's promise. That's what faith looks like in action. They might not know how or when their breakthrough will come, but their trust in God fuels their perseverance. Financial miracles often happen when we are on the brink of giving up. That's when God steps in and turns the impossible into reality. Victory through faith is about holding on, even when everything else says to let go. Faith requires patience. Often, we want immediate results, especially when it comes to our finances. But God's timing is different from ours. Sometimes, He allows us to go through financial deserts to teach us important lessons about trust and perseverance. Just as the Israelites had to wander the desert before reaching the Promised Land, we too must sometimes wait before we experience financial victory. But during that time, our faith is being refined, and the blessings on the other side are worth the wait. A real-life example of this is someone who lost their job and saw no way out of their financial struggles. Instead of giving in to despair, they chose to trust God, believing that He had a plan even though they couldn't see it. Over time, new doors opened, ones they never expected, and their financial situation turned around completely. This is the essence of victory through faith. It's not about having all the answers, but about trusting that God is leading you to something greater. Victory through faith doesn't mean that we won't face hardships, but it does mean that those hardships won't defeat us. Financial struggles, personal challenges, and even moments of doubt are all part of the journey. But when we keep our eyes on God, we begin to see that each challenge is a stepping stone toward a greater blessing. It's through these moments that God proves His faithfulness, showing us that He is working all things for our good, even when we don't understand how. God's Word is full of promises about victory for those who trust in Him. One of the most powerful is found in Romans 8 verse 37, where it says, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." This verse reminds us that our victory isn't dependent on our circumstances, but on God's love for us. No matter how difficult things seem, we are already victorious through our faith in Him. This includes financial victories, which are often just around the corner when we hold on to faith. Faith isn't just believing in God when things are going well. It's trusting Him when everything seems to be falling apart. When we face financial difficulties, it's easy to doubt that God is working in our favor. But the Bible teaches us that God is always working, even when we can't see it. Victory comes to those who keep their faith, especially when it's tested. It's during these times of testing that financial miracles are often on the horizon, waiting to be revealed. Another key to victory through faith is gratitude. It might seem strange to be thankful in the midst of financial struggles, but gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what God has already provided. When we thank God in advance for the financial blessings we believe are coming, we activate our faith and open the door for miracles. This act of faith shows God that we trust Him, even when we can't see the outcome. Gratitude, paired with faith, is a powerful combination for victory. Victory through faith also means recognizing that God's plan is often bigger than our own. We might be praying for financial breakthrough in one area, but God is working on something even greater. It's important to stay open to the ways in which God is moving in our lives. Sometimes, we focus so much on one specific outcome that we miss the bigger blessing God is preparing. Trusting in His plan means being willing to accept that our victory might look different than we expected, but it will always be better than we imagined. Faith and action go hand in hand. While trusting in God is crucial, it's also important to take steps of faith toward the victory He has promised. This might mean stepping out of your comfort zone, investing in a new opportunity, or making a bold financial decision. God often rewards those who act in faith, even when the path ahead isn't entirely clear. Victory through faith requires us to move forward, trusting that God will meet us on the other side. Spiritual growth often happens in the desert moments of life, when everything seems dry and barren, and we're left wondering why we're facing such difficulties. Just like the Israelites wandered through the desert before reaching the Promised Land, we too face periods of struggle that refine our faith. These desert experiences are not punishments but opportunities for growth, where God is teaching us to trust Him more deeply. Financial hardships are often a type of desert, but they are also a time when we can grow spiritually and prepare for the blessings that are ahead. In the desert, we learn to rely on God in ways we never would if everything were easy. It's during these dry seasons that our faith is tested and strengthened. The Israelites questioned God many times during their journey, wondering if He had abandoned them. But it was in those moments that God provided miracles like manna from heaven, showing that He was with them all along. Similarly, in our financial deserts, God is often preparing us for a financial miracle, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Deserts force us to slow down and reflect. In a world that's always moving fast, we rarely take the time to pause and listen for God's voice. But in the desert, we have no choice but to wait, to be still, and to seek His guidance. It's in this stillness that we grow spiritually. Financial difficulties can feel like they're slowing us down, but in reality, they're giving us the chance to realign our priorities and deepen our relationship with God. The desert is a place of preparation, not punishment. One practical example of this is someone who, after losing their job, was forced to take a step back and re-evaluate their life. What seemed like a financial disaster turned into a season of spiritual growth, as they spent more time in prayer and reflection. Eventually, a new job opportunity came, one that was far better than the last, and they realized that the time spent in the desert was exactly what they needed to prepare for this new blessing. Sometimes, God uses financial deserts to shift our focus and get us ready for the next phase of our lives. Desert seasons also teach us the importance of patience. We live in a society that craves instant results, especially when it comes to finances. But God's timing is often different from our own. Just as the Israelites had to wander the desert for 40 years, we too may have to wait longer than we'd like for financial blessings. But during this time, God is not inactive. He is shaping us, refining our faith, and preparing us for something greater. Patience in the desert leads to spiritual growth that can't be achieved any other way. Have you ever noticed how the desert, despite its harsh conditions, is still full of life? Beneath the dry surface, there are seeds waiting for the right moment to bloom. The same is true for us. In the spiritual deserts of life, God is planting seeds of growth that will eventually bear fruit. We might not see the results right away, but we can trust that God is working beneath the surface. Our job is to keep nurturing our faith, even when it feels like nothing is happening. In time, those seeds will grow into financial blessings and spiritual prosperity. The Bible is full of stories where God uses the desert to bring about transformation. Think of Moses, who spent 40 years in the desert before he was ready to lead the Israelites. Or Jesus, who spent 40 days in the wilderness before beginning his ministry. These desert experiences were not wasted time. They were essential for spiritual growth. In the same way, our financial deserts are not wasted. They are part of God's plan to prepare us for the financial miracles and blessings He has in store. One of the hardest parts of the desert is the feeling of isolation. When we're going through financial struggles, it's easy to feel like we're alone in our difficulties. But God is always with us, even when it feels like we're in the middle of nowhere. Just as He provided for the Israelites in the desert, He will provide for us. It might not come in the form we expect, but God's provision is always perfect. Financial blessings often come when we least expect them, in ways that only God could orchestrate. In the desert, we learn to let go of our own strength and rely on God's. It's a humbling experience, but one that leads to deeper spiritual growth. Financial deserts remind us that we are not in control, but God is. When we stop relying on our own efforts and start trusting in His, we open the door to financial miracles. It's in these moments of surrender that God steps in and does what we cannot. The desert is where we learn to trust God with everything, including our finances. Spiritual growth in the desert also means learning to see God's blessings in the midst of difficulty. It's easy to miss the small ways that God is working when we're focused on what's going wrong. But even in the desert, God is providing. It might be a small financial break or a new opportunity that comes out of nowhere. These are signs that God is with us, even in the dry seasons. The more we focus on these blessings, the more we'll see them, and the easier it will be to trust that God is leading us to something greater. True peace doesn't come from our circumstances, but from being in God's presence. When life feels overwhelming and financial worries weigh heavily on us, the world tells us to find peace in things like money, security, or success. But these are fleeting solutions. The only lasting peace comes from trusting God, knowing that He is in control of every situation. When we rest in His presence, we discover a peace that transcends all understanding, one that no financial crisis can shake. God's presence is our refuge, a place where we can lay down our burdens and find rest. In Matthew 11 verse 28, Jesus invites us, saying, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This rest is not just physical but spiritual, an assurance that no matter what we face, God is with us, and He will provide. When financial struggles arise, it's tempting to rely on our own strength to solve them. But true peace comes when we let go of control and trust that God will lead us to financial blessings in His perfect timing. In practical terms, finding peace in God's presence means creating space in our lives to connect with Him. This could be through prayer, meditation, or simply sitting in silence and listening for His voice. Think about how you feel after spending time with a close friend who lifts your spirits. It's refreshing, isn't it? The same is true when we spend time with God. The more we seek His presence, the more peace we experience, even in the face of financial uncertainty. It's a peace that goes beyond logic, rooted in the belief that God will take care of our needs. One way to maintain this peace is by reflecting on God's past faithfulness. When we remember how He has provided for us before, it becomes easier to trust Him with our current challenges. Consider keeping a gratitude journal where you record the ways God has blessed you financially, big or small. When fear or worry creeps in, you can look back at these moments as a reminder that God has always been faithful and will continue to be. This practice not only brings peace but also strengthens our faith, allowing us to face financial challenges with confidence. It's important to note that peace in God's presence doesn't mean the absence of problems. We will still face financial struggles and hardships, but the difference is how we respond to them. When we are rooted in God's peace, we are not shaken by every setback. Instead, we approach challenges with calmness and trust, knowing that God is working behind the scenes. This peace acts as a shield, protecting us from anxiety and fear. It allows us to navigate life's storms with grace, trusting that God is guiding us toward victory, even when the way forward seems unclear. Transformation begins with trust, especially when it comes to experiencing God's blessings in our lives. Trusting God with our finances is not always easy, but it's a crucial step in unlocking the financial miracles He has in store for us. When we fully surrender our worries, fears, and doubts to Him, we open ourselves to a transformation that goes beyond just our financial situation. It's a shift in perspective, a deeper understanding that God's plans for us are far greater than we can imagine. Think about how a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. It doesn't fight the process or try to control it. Instead, it trusts that the cocooning phase, as restrictive as it seems, is necessary for its growth. In the same way, when we trust God, we might feel confined by our financial struggles, but these are often the very situations that lead to our greatest growth. Financial transformation begins with faith, believing that God is working, even when we can't see the outcome yet. One of the keys to transformation through trust is learning to release control. We often want to manage every aspect of our financial lives, planning, budgeting, saving, and striving for security. While these are important, they shouldn't replace our trust in God's provision. True financial transformation happens when we let go of the need to control everything and allow God to work in ways we hadn't anticipated. It's in this space of surrender that we see His miracles unfold, sometimes in ways that far exceed our expectations. A practical example of this could be someone who had always played it safe with their finances, avoiding risks and trusting only in their own strategies. But after a season of struggle, they felt God leading them to step out in faith, whether by starting a new business, giving generously despite tight finances, or pursuing a career change. By trusting God, they experienced a financial transformation that wasn't just about numbers in their bank account, but about newfound confidence and purpose in their lives. Transformation through trust also involves aligning our actions with God's will. It's not enough to say we trust God. We need to live that trust daily. This might mean making bold financial decisions, stepping out in faith when God prompts us to give, or taking opportunities that stretch our comfort zone. Each act of faith, no matter how small, contributes to our transformation. As we continue to trust and follow God's guidance, We find ourselves not only receiving financial blessings, but also growing in spiritual maturity. Now that you've heard God's message, the question is, what are you going to do with it? Will you let this moment slip through your fingers, or will you take action and apply what you've learned? God's blessings are ready, but it's up to you to unlock them. Think about it. If you truly believed that your financial miracle was just one decision away, what would you do differently starting today? The choice is in your hands. But don't stop here. This is just the beginning of your journey to transformation. Are you ready to change your life? It's time to act. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and stay connected. Every message you hear could be the one that shifts your financial future. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. God's blessings are waiting for those who are ready to receive them. Are you ready? Then let's keep going together.